Welcome, 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 welcome to the Tourism Australia and Virtuoso Signature Experiences of Australia webinar. My name is Quentin Long. I'm the co-founder of Australian Traveller and International Traveller magazines and websites, and it is my absolute pleasure to be your host today. And what a wild journey we're going to take today. We're going to get wild wilderness in the wild. Who would have thunk that could happen? And what I'm going to tell you is that by the end of today, you'll be looking forward to an Australian safari. Believe me, it happens and you'll be blown away. Today, we're going to take a journey with the Australian Wildlife Journeys. They are one of the 8 collectives that form the Signature Experiences of Australia. And these are the people who are delivering incredible, personalised, world-leading, interpretive, important, transformative experiences right here in Australia. And after we do our wild experiences or wild safaris across Australia, I'll also be revealing 2 of the Virtuoso partners right here in Australia. One of them is an exceptional tour company. I'll come back to that later. That's my first dad joke of the day. And the other is a fabulous new hotel in one of our great cities. That's probably one of the best boutique hotels, has actually the best penthouse, maybe the best penthouse, particularly in its city, but maybe in Australia. I'll let you be the judge of that. If you have connection issues, don't worry. You can actually use the same link to come back to the webinar. It's not mission impossible. It doesn't self-destruct in 10 seconds. And if you continue to have connection issues, still don't worry. Your travel advisor has a link that they can share with you, which is a recording of today's session. You can even edit out my dad jokes if you really wanted to. The second part of the housekeeping I've got to get through today is probably more important. Look, I'm here to have fun, don't get me wrong, and I love doing this. But really, my job is to help you find your next great Australian experience. And to do that, I can't read your mind. Just ask my wife. I want to hear your questions. We've got to answer your questions to make sure that we can connect you to that great experience that will really wow you. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. And because I'm a guy, I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. I definitely can't host this webinar and answer your questions. So the team at Virtuoso will be answering them. If we don't get to your question, don't despair. Your best friend in the world, your trusted travel advisor, they'll be able to answer your questions as well, because they are a wealth of knowledge, as you no doubt well know. So that's enough of the housekeeping. It's time to get wild. Now, I bet you probably didn't realize that right here in Australia, you can go on a killer whale watching expedition for a day with 95% guarantee of seeing killer whales right here in Australia. I reckon that's better success than other places in the world that we may know as killer whales for their killer whales. How about going on a safari with Seb Lord up in Kakadu and Arnhem Land? Now, Seb's family were the last graziers on land that's now part of Kakadu National Park. So he has deep connections, not just to the land, but to also the Indigenous communities. And he really is fantastic at making you see that land in a new way, understanding it, and really bringing it to life to grab the essence of what Kakadu really is. Or maybe it's something a bit closer to home. We continually drive through this fantastic countryside we have here in Australia, and we're often missing things. We don't know what we're looking at. For example, East Gippsland, fantastic wilderness and wildlife. But do we really understand the ecology? Do we really understand the flora, the fauna? And this is what Australian Wildlife Journeys do. They bring this to life. Now, look, I've only touched on a few of those things, but they're like our counsellors. They're counsellors between us and the wilderness. And what we need today is a counsellor for our session today to help us through the Australian Wildlife Journeys. And to do that, I've asked the Executive Officer of Australian Wildlife Journeys, John Dorr, to join us. G'day, John.
Hey, Quentin, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it's a delight to be with everyone today to share some of these amazing experiences that you've touched upon.
Yeah, John, I've got to say, you really have brought to life that concept of the safari in Australia. Do you feel like it's starting to get some momentum and people are starting to say, yeah, that makes sense to me. I really want to commune with nature and really understand what is actually happening on Australian soil?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've seen a worldwide trend really in recent years that people are wanting to connect with wildlife in those wild settings Obviously, a lot of people connect with our Australian animals in captive areas and sanctuaries, which of course are really important as well. But we've certainly seen people traveling all across the globe to do these incredible safaris and learning more about them. And now what a time to go out of Australia and do exactly the same thing with those expert guides, as you've mentioned.
Yeah. All right, mate. I love that, the face peering over your shoulder. So I'm going to let you get on with it. I know you've got a great presentation for us.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Quentin. So you'll see pictured here two beautiful forester kangaroos in Tasmania. I've got the privilege of representing a whole heap of different fantastic family-owned wildlife guiding operations across Australia that really showcase our incredible wildlife. And as we've mentioned, we believe that seeing wildlife in the wild is really, really important. We not only think it's the best way to observe and learn about animals, of course, but we also see it as a really important way to preserve habitats that are really critical for a lot of our iconic species, of course, but our lesser known animals as well that we're still finding so much more about. So in the wild is what we focus on, those safari type experiences, whether that be land or by ocean. It doesn't matter where you go on a wildlife trip around this great planet of ours, it all comes down to the quality of guides. We call them our storytellers. They are the conduits. They're our counsellors, as Quentin mentioned, that really connect our guests with those ecosystems. And what's so great about quality guides is that they can not only have that commentary that we're used to when we go on tour, but it's more than that. It's that conversation and being able to express and reflect the habitats that we're touring with, what your passions and interests are in a small group format. So that's what we really focus on heavily, and also connecting with our local communities. That's a really important aspect of what we do. It's all about supporting those regional communities, local providores, local winemakers. That's really the foundation of what we're all about as a group, and a really important time to do that, of course. So there are 10 members that comprise Australian Wildlife Journeys. We're going to whip around Australia, and rather than going region by region, we're going to talk about the different themes. So obviously wildlife is the overarching theme here, but we're going to talk about different ways you can experience wildlife, whether that be soft adventure with hiking or biking, photography, all the way through to multi-day safaris as well. So starting out with soft adventure or biking and hiking, and what a way to start out with the Maria Island Walk in beautiful Tasmania. So Maria is around 90 minutes from Hobart. More and more people are learning about this amazing place that they also call Tasmania's Noah's Ark because of the abundance of marsupials and Tasmanian endemic species that you can find there. Of course, the linchpin of this is the 4-day guided walk here. There's 10 guests, 2 guides. It's the best place without doubt to see wombats. I think this is one of the most famous wombats in the world, or most published anyway, but you can experience this, plentiful opportunities for photos with wombats. And of course, lots of marsupials beyond that, paddy melons, possums, and even the Tassie devil, which was introduced recently. Certainly opportunities to see them with our nocturnal experiences and enjoy these magnificent landscapes in small groups. Heading up to far north Queensland with FNQ Nature Tours. This is a hiking experience, the only hiking experience that's a day trip outside of Cairns. And this particular experience, we hike up the beautiful Lamb Range. It's a really significant area in terms of flora and fauna. And James, the lead guide there, is excellent at telling the stories of evolution through that beautiful range up there. A new experience that I'm particularly excited about is e-biking, and you can do this across Kangaroo Island now through the Cygnet River Valley. The team at Exceptional Kangaroo Island, who you're going to hear from later, have this amazing e-bike tour that they've just started, combined with some beautiful fresh produce, King George whiting you can see on the plate there. Makes me very hungry. Also in South Australia, Coastal Safaris, or Australian Coastal Safaris, have started their Boston Island e-bike guided tour. And this is a really interesting opportunity because Boston Island traditionally hasn't been open to the public. So it's a new experience just outside of Port Lincoln. You can actually see the town of Port Lincoln in the background there. But this is a way that you can enjoy the island. Lots of wildlife on there, including Tamar wallabies and goannas as well. So a great way to connect with the landscapes on the Eyre Peninsula. All right, let's change tact a little and talk about our aquatic experiences. If you're into your snorkeling and diving, and why wouldn't you be with those magnificent coral reefs we have on the east and west coast? One of the most popular and most, I guess, talked about opportunities in recent months is swimming with whale sharks. It's certainly on a lot of people's bucket list, and I think this year there's going to be a lot of interest heading up to Ningaloo, which is about a 2-hour flight from Perth. The team at Exmouth Dive and Whale Sharks Ningaloo have an amazing deluxe whale shark swim experience where you can go out with their expert dive master guides and get in the water with these magnificent creatures. Until you've done this, it's hard to explain how big these fish are. Once you get in the water, they're graceful giants just gliding through their filter feeders. So they don't do any harm. They're just interested in feeding, and just an incredible experience. A newer experience to Ningaloo, though, is the deluxe humpback swim with the team at Exmouth Dive. And this I haven't done yet. It's certainly on my bucket list for this year. A lot of people just come out of the water in tears once I've experienced swimming with humpback whales, not only the sheer size of them, but also their whale song, of course, that reverberates right through your body. It's not all about the megafauna, though, up there. It's also about diving and snorkeling. A lot of people probably haven't dived Ningaloo. Maybe you've done the Great Barrier Reef. What a year to try and check out Ningaloo's fringing reef, which is the largest in the world, and experience places like the Muron Islands, where you can learn to dive, do a trial dive, or you can even have a multi-dive trip through those beautiful regions full of soft corals and all sorts of delights underwater there. If you want to swim with dolphins, there's numerous opportunities to do that. The exceptional Kangaroo Island team have an active explorers opportunity to go out with the bottlenose dolphins and look at the watercolour. They're just amazing. And one of my favourites, as you can probably tell from my background, is swimming with the puppy dogs of the ocean, the Australian sea lion. So the team at Australian Coastal Safaris have a 3-day experience called the Eyre Peninsula Wildlife and Ocean Encounter. It's an incredible way to see the peninsula, but includes swimming with both Australian sea lions and bottlenose dolphins. And what about up north? So Far North Queensland has a pretty unique opportunity up at Cape Tribulation, where we do a snorkel through the Mossman River. We see all sorts of freshwater fish, eels, freshwater turtles, and even occasionally the platypus. A nice drift snorkel, and of course you want to top that off by a great barrier reef dive up that way as well. What about family experiences? So we know that a lot of people are going to be looking to travel as families, and even multi-generational trips this year. Port Lincoln is a great place to do this with Australian Coastal Safaris. They have boat rides that you can do outside of the marina through Coffin Bay National Park and Lincoln National Park. But one thing that I will say about all the experiences is that they are private or custom or tailor-made for the majority of experiences that we talk about today. And what that means is that we can really cater that itinerary depending on what the interests are of the group, and particularly what your children want to do as well. So it's a great way to connect with our environment, obviously, and the wildlife, but doing it in the context where we're educating kids as well. Exceptional Kangaroo Island, again, have a terrific young families experience where we're spending a little bit more time interacting with those animals, and researchers really adapting their presentations according to what the children are interested in. And same thing for Daintree, another really popular destination with families, and we have access to some special trails up that way, private trails up the national park that not many people have access to, which is a very, very popular experience with families. I will point out, and one thing that we're really passionate on as a group is how we can contribute to the conservation scene here in Australia. And we do that through something called citizen science, where we're giving you the opportunity to atlas or record what we're seeing out in the beautiful national parks or natural settings. And we feel this is a great way to get the kids involved, getting them off their iPads, off their phones, and using it, though, for a really important purpose to record these unique native animals that we have. So they're just a sample of the different species that we can record with kids as part of those programs. Nocturnal experiences. I think this is a really important one to cover, because a lot of Australians have probably seen a lot of our wildlife species, but certainly open to learning more, but we might not have been out on a nocturnal trip, which is unfortunate because that's often when you're going to get the best wildlife viewing, of course, for a lot of our native animals. You can do it just outside of Sydney with Boutique Wildlife Tours. They have an incredible Southern Highlands wildlife in the wild day trip that leaves from Sydney, leaves around midday. We have a beautiful dinner. We go platypus spotting, look for obviously kangaroos, emus, echidnas. And then in the evening, we get out with the red filtered spotlights, as you can see there, to see the wombats coming out the burrow in the evening, possums, lots of nocturnal wildlife, including the tawny frogmouse and owls as well. Tasmania, we know it's abundant with marsupials down there. It's got a lot of protected habitat, which is terrific. And the team at Premier Travel Tasmania have a 5-day wildlife and wilderness experience where we can see some of the more unusual marsupials, including the Tassie devils and quolls, which are often a challenge to see on the mainland, unfortunately, with numbers being reduced. But that's an incredible opportunity to get out to places like Cradle Mountain, the Highlands, through places like Thousand Lakes Lodge to see a lot of the nocturnal wildlife. And up in the Daintree, again, a lot of that wildlife really comes to life in the evening. So seeing the amphibians, the tree frogs, there's such an abundance of rare marsupials up there. It's just an incredible experience to see it after dark. And there's not too many people in the national park at that time. Another real benefit to going out. Whale watching experiences, I know, a really popular pursuit, and I'm sure it will be this year when we have the migrations, which will be starting very soon. As Quentin mentioned, one of my favourite new experiences is this Bremer Canyon killer whale expedition. It's about 120 orcas. It's one of the most reliable orca expeditions anywhere in the world. And one of the unique things here is you're going to be seeing them in hunting mode quite regularly. So they hunt in packs, obviously, and feed quite regularly on other marine mammals, whether that be beaked whales, seals, sea lions, and giant squid. So it's just a fabulous way to see orcas. If you haven't seen them in the wild, it's a really, really special experience. In the Great Australian Bight, another destination a lot of Aussies haven't been to, the Bunda Cliffs and the Nullarbor Cliffs through there to see the endangered southern right whales. So we have a 5-day program that heads all the way down to Port Lincoln and seeing blue whales. Again, not a lot of us were aware perhaps that you can see blue whales here in Australia, and one of the best places to see them is in Dunsborough, in the Margaret River region, just to see these animals in the springtime through these pristine waters. Just an incredible experience to observe the sheer size of them. If you want to go sunset whale watching with a glass of champagne, you can do that up in Ningaloo as well, through the Gulf there. And bird watching, another really interesting theme that I think more of us are getting interested in as photography becomes more popular because of the price of cameras coming down. It sort of goes hand in hand with wildlife for a lot of people, of course. You can capture images like this up in far north Queensland, one of the most important birding sites anywhere on the planet, and the origin of songbirds. On Kangaroo Island, the crew have a safari up there as well, where we can go out and see the glossy black cockatoos, which are endemic species. There's been a wonderful conservation story involved with that, which I'd encourage you to look online as well. And Australian Coastal Safari is also with one of their chief guides, Fran Solly, an expert in photography. She will actually do workshops with you, so you can take shots like that on the screen. And Kakadu, of course, one of the most important birding sites in the world. And Lord's Kakadu and Sab and his team can take you out for both birding and custom photography tours. On that point, and we're going to round it out here, Safari Adventures, and I know this is of interest to a lot of people this year. Lord's Kakadu and Arnold Land Safaris, they have custom itineraries where we can really create your dream trip, but the ultimate luxury safari is my favorite. It's a 6-day experience that covers Kakadu and Arnhem Land through really significant areas culturally. Sab is privileged because of his background to have access to a lot of sacred sites for the Indigenous people, to see the rock art and to see the wildlife through their eyes. And Sab's experience is a real treat. Tassie, again, on a lot of people's bucket list, we have this incredible 8-day opportunity which covers the East Coast and also the interior through Cradle, Mount Field National Park, Maria Island, to see all these marsupials and rainforest landscapes. And East Gippsland, that we mentioned earlier, I think is probably one of the most underrated areas. A lot of us drive through it, but the opportunities through there are incredible, with things like lyrebirds, lace monitors you can see there, and also, I guess, those rarer marsupial species like gliders. You see the sugar glider pictured there. So they have a 4-day adventure, which also interacts several conservation opportunities, including wildlife surveys, which is really important post bushfires as well. And also Mungo, I know another talked about area where we can go and explore these amazing lunettes and lunar landscapes with the wildlife habiting those regions, red kangaroos, western greys, great for emus. And if you're a bird watcher like me, it's one of the best places to see bush parrots, including the pink cockatoo or major Mitchell cockatoo. So that's a 4-day experience with expert guides where you're getting the best of both that Murray-Darling environment, but also these arid landscapes through Mungo. So I hope that's inspired you to go out to your Virtuoso advisor. We've really just gleaned upon some of the opportunities here, but we're really passionate about more Aussies getting out to see these amazing landscapes, national parks, and helping us to preserve wildlife for future generations.
John, that was exceptional. I took loads of notes. I really, really enjoyed it. I definitely need to get out to the Bremer. Is it Bremer Submarine Trench? Is that what it's called? Is that where it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Just around the corner from Esperance, right?
Yeah, so it's about a 2-hour drive from Albany. So most people will access the area, obviously by self-drive, but if they are flying, you can go into Albany and just have a 2-hour transfer or bus ride through to Bremer Bay.
Wow.
But it is a Bremer sub-canyon there, which they're still learning so much about. It's a very new area to science. So every day there's some incredible insights from the science community on what's happening there.
Yeah, well, put me down for that. Also, I love the idea. Yeah, you're right. Nocturnal experiences. I've got to make 2 confessions to you. The first one is I was a twitcher when I was a kid, but don't tell anybody else. So I do actually love to see the birds. And I've never seen a platypus in the wild. So I'm definitely going to hit up those guys in the Southern Highlands to do that nocturnal experience. I think that'll be fantastic. And the kids would absolutely lose their minds over being able to see all those animals, particularly.
Yeah, no, you'll never forget the first time you see the platypus in the wild. They're an amazing creature. So yeah, definitely get out there and see them just outside of Sydney.
Cool. Make sure you just keep my secrets for me though, buddy. All right. Thank you so much for that, John. That was fantastic. Now, at the beginning of our session today, I did say I'd be revealing 2 of our Virtuoso members here in Australia. And I did crack a few dad jokes about that. They were exceptional. So I'm going to introduce you to Exceptional Kangaroo Island, which you would have heard about from John. He really gave you a great description, headed up by the owner now, Craig Wickham. These guys do very customized, specialized tours of Kangaroo Island, which is often referred to a bit of our Noah's Ark. And I want to make sure that you understand everything that they have to offer. But you know what? Craig expresses it best. So I think we should roll his video.
Hi, I'm Craig Wickham from Exceptional Kangaroo Island. My family and I have been sharing Kangaroo Island for over 30 years, and we're really pleased to have joined the team at Virtuoso, working with your travel advisor to bring you the very best of Kangaroo Island, whether that's landscape, wildlife, the food and wine, the stories behind the scene. That's what we're here for. We've got relationships with lots of different accommodations, beach house to private villa to luxury lodges, and we bring together complementary experiences to give you a great understanding of a place and finding things you're not going to find out on your own. We've got itineraries which are aimed at couples, at families, at people with a special interest, and even some awesome special events such as a private clifftop picnic, a beach barbecue, and really celebrate the solitude, the open spaces and beauty, which is our island home. Can't wait to see you.
And our second Virtuoso partner today is a bit of a change of pace. It's a beautiful resort-style boutique hotel right in the heart of Brisbane. It's actually on the river. Emporium South Bank Hotel is exceptional. It has a beautiful rooftop terrace and pool, incredible rooms, luxuriously understated, has the best penthouse or the largest penthouse in the whole of Brisbane, has 4 bedrooms, a private pool. You can get a Maserati transfer as well. They can organize a private chef for you if you'd like. But one of their best packages is the Taste of Emporium, which is a dinner party that moves throughout the hotel. You start with cocktails at the rooftop bar at the terrace, and then you move to their signature restaurant. It's called Signature, so I'm not misnaming it. signature restaurant, have a 3-course meal there, and then you move to the piano bar in the basement for a beautiful nightcap. An exceptional package, but I think we should actually have a look at the hotel itself because they've provided a video which will give you even more feel for just how gorgeous a place it is. I told you that rooftop terrace and pool were absolutely gorgeous. Now, I'm sure you've got lots and lots of ideas out of today, particularly from John Dawes' beautiful presentation of all those great safari style experiences we can have in Australia. So maybe it's time that you sent an email to your travel advisor, outlined a few of the ideas that you got today and said, hey, can we weave these into an itinerary? Make sure you put them on my file for next time I'm in Brisbane, for example, or if I get to Adelaide. There's some fabulous experiences that we've had today. So please drop a line to your travel advisor and ask them to start putting together a few concepts and a few ideas for you. Unfortunately, that's all we have time today for. This has been the second in our webinar series. And so there's 6 more coming up because there's 8 in total. There'll be 2, every Tuesday for the next 3 weeks. So coming up next week, we'll have great fishing adventures and the great walks of Australia. Just remember, fishing is not just about pulling fish out of the water. It's also about destinations, a great add-on to the experiences you're already having. And the great walks of Australia are very, very hot right now. Great way to spend some time in nature, but also very popular with groups, particularly of women having great fun together without their dud husbands who no longer want to travel. And then the following week, we're going to do the Discover Aboriginal Experiences. Very, very important. Great way to commune with our Indigenous or connect with our Indigenous brothers and sisters and their culture. Followed by the Ultimate Winery Experiences. And then the week after that, Cultural Attractions of Australia and the Great Golf Courses of Australia. The first webinar that we did that you may have missed, which was just an hour ago, was the Luxury Lodges of Australia. You will definitely want to look that up. It's not just about luxury accommodation because many people can do luxury accommodation, but not many people can do the depth and diversity of experiences that the great Australian luxury lodges have. It's about the superlative accommodation, brilliant guiding, exceptional landscapes that you're part of and that you get to access. So if you'd like to see that, contact your travel advisor. They'll be able to send you a recording of that as well. And as I said, that's all we have time for today. It's been my great pleasure to take you on this journey. I'm sure you got lots out of it. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you next Tuesday or the Tuesday afterwards. But in the meantime, happy travels. My name's Quentin Long. It's been my absolute pleasure to host you today.